Honorable, my dear brother, Dr. Manzoor Alam, the patron of Institute of Objective Studies, Professor Dr. Shukran bin AbdulRahman, the Dean of the Kulliyyah, AbdulHamid AbuSulayman, Kulliyyah of Islamic Revealed Knowledge and Human Sciences, my fellow panelists, the chairman of the session, Professor Afzal, Professor Rahma, fellow panelist. I can see Dr. Muna AbuSulayman is also here. Dear brothers and sisters, this is a privilege for me to be as a panelist in this very important session on an international conference on Dr. AbdulHamid AbuSulayman. My topic of discussion is methodological issues, a critical analysis of the contribution of AbdulHamid AbuSulayman. Please remind me if I exceed the time. Since 1970s, the Islamic thought was represented, especially by the Islamic revivalist tradition. This revivalist discourse on Islam seems to stand for the development of an alternative intellectual framework for the development of culture and civilization. I include AbuSulayman among the Islamic revivalists of our time. I had the chance to work under his leadership in International Islamic University for 10 years. Before that, I had met several times him in India and abroad, and also during his visits to Malaysia. He dedicated his life for the service of humanity, but he thought for the revival of humanity, for the service of humanity, the revival of Islam is necessary. He argued without the revival of Islam, its culture and civilization, there is no possibility of service to humanity. This conviction, this unwavering understanding of Islam made him known in the Muslim world. For creating culture and civilization, he thought all the Islamic revivalists must invest their intellectual energies and make their efforts to articulate a few new intellectual frameworks. One of them is the movement of the Islamization of knowledge. In our university, International Islamic University, we add as human knowledge. So we call it IOHK. According to the time and context, AbdulHamid AbuSulayman argued, if not all the Islamic revivalists, but a few revivalists engage themselves in some intellectual activities, such as the reconceptualization of the system of education. Some people thought that this reconceptualization was against the introduction of modern secular Western educational system into the Muslim world. They view it from a negative context. It may be partly true, but it is not the whole and sole goal of the Islamization of human knowledge and movement. According to my humble understanding, both Ismail Raji al-Faruqi and AbdulHamid AbuSulayman forcefully argue that through the launch of the movement of Islamization of human knowledge, they wanted to see Ummah as developed Ummah. Unreasonably, the Islamization of knowledge movement is seen in the Western world from the anti-Western perspective. But in truth, IOHK movement demonstrates something else. The movement of Islamization of human knowledge, we need to understand, is a recent movement which emerged during mid-1970s and represents an ideological program of Islam and its academic excellence, as claimed by both Ismail Raji al-Faruqi and AbuSulayman. According to AbuSulayman, the concern of this particular movement of our time has been the development of Islamic thought, its methodology, production of new knowledge, educational growth, and development, proper development of human beings and societies. Finally, the cultural and civilizational development. Hence, according to AbdulHamid AbuSulayman, he emphasized, much has been said about the content of Islamic thought, its relevance or irrelevance. But what is lacking is the issue of methodology and the need for its reformulation or reform due to time-space context. He believes this issue has not been addressed properly, and I feel that still it is not addressed properly. Consequently, AbdulHamid said, this has led to the notions of borrowing of foreign ideas, ideologies, and institutions, all of which have apparently failed to revitalize Muslim thought and Ummah. AbuSulayman therefore emphasized and contended that there is an urgent need to revise and reformulate and update the traditional methodology of Islamic thought. We need to understand here for AbdulHamid AbuSulayman, the movement of Islamization of human knowledge and the process is in fact should be understood in terms of the movement for the development of Islamic thought and its methodology. Therefore, commenting on the need of reform of Islamic methodology, AbdulHamid AbuSulayman argues that the change must come from within, based on the beliefs and values of the worldview of Islam. This desire for change in the structure and the format of the existing methodology or traditional methodology need inner urge based on the correct understanding of Islam. Therefore, in his book, The Quranic Worldview, AbdulHamid argued that the importance of clear view of the world for everybody is necessary. It is the true, authentic, and universal worldview which lays the foundation for the building of a healthy human civilization and helps people to be dynamic, positive, and creative. Reform, he insisted, must initiate with intellectual reform, especially with the development of disciplined and systematic methodology for thought, which must be rational, based on rational, empirical approaches that should incorporate Islamic objectives. A clear vision of Islamic objectives was emphasized always by AbdulHamid AbuSulayman. That was the reason that the student population of the International Islamic University loved him, because he was determined to achieve through all the educational activities the objectives of Islam in time-space context. He contended that the aim of this reform is to examine the reasons why Islamic thought has apparently failed to play an active and constructive role in the contemporary world of thought and ideas, as well as to offer new alternatives to Western thought, and thus address the growing need for peace, security, cooperation, and participation. One of the reasons identified by AbdulHamid AbuSulayman for this reform of methodology of Islamic thought and the development of Islamic thought as such is the current stagnation and the narrow application of classical Muslim methodology. AbdulHamid argued that has resulted in the form of rigidity and exclusiveness of Islamic thought. Hence, according to AbdulHamid AbuSulayman, it is imperative for Muslim intellectuals to study and analyze the classical Islamic methodology and the traditional way of applying it in the field of Islamic thought, so that we can identify its shortcomings. He considered the movement for the reform of the traditional methodology as an obligation for Muslim intellectuals who are determined to revive Islamic thought based on revised Islamic methodology. It was not just taken as an educational exercise, but he considered it an obligation imposed by Islam on Muslim intellectuals. What is wrong, he raised the question, with Muslim thought, and why the Sharia is no longer providing us with rules and regulations that can enable us to exert more effective control over our environment and destiny. He did not ignore the activities and the efforts committed by some other scholars with regard to development of methodology and Islamic thought. For example, he admitted that Naqib al-Attas seems to be in favor of comparative and analytical methods in the light of revelation. Naqib al-Attas suggested from a methodological point of view, comparison, identification, and isolation of key Western concepts within the body of existing knowledge disciplines. He also suggested for the infusion of key Islamic concepts in the body of present-day knowledge and modern Western sciences. Whereas, according to AbdulHamid AbuSulayman and also Raji al-Faruqi, it seems to us that to be more concerned in the light of the movement of Islamization of knowledge, we need to focus on empirical nature and time, space, dimensions of methodology of Islamic thought. Time and again, he emphasized on this empirical approach and time-space context. He considered the issue of methodology as an integral part of the Islamization of human knowledge project. Hence, for him, the understanding of the methodological issues is a prerequisite for the formulation of a new methodology or the reform of the text. We therefore need to study deeper the views of scholars such as Muhammad Naqib al-Attas, Ismail Raji al-Faruqi, AbdulHamid AbuSulayman, Taha Jabir Alwani, Imaduddin Khalil, Mehdi Gulshani, Jafar Sheikh Idris, Professor Muhammad Kamal Hassan, and many more who have touched in their thought the issue of methodology of both Islamization of knowledge as well as Islamic thought. However, it appears to me that these scholars have focused more on ideological, conceptual, metaphysical frameworks of Islamic methodology rather than a systematic focus and more concentrated elaboration of methodology. No doubt they had emphasized the methods and their technical dimensions again and again, but their contention is to provide an Islamic metaphysical premise because it is more important for them, because it is an integral part of the Islamic methodology which they thought legitimizes the need for the reformulation of modern Western methodologies as well.
Okay.
These metaphysical premises.
Dr. Mumtaz, you may conclude in another 2 minutes, 2-3 minutes.
Okay. This metaphysical premises of Islamic methodology, which has been emphasized by these scholars, no doubt distinguishes it from the existing methodology in the modern West. But Islamization of knowledge project has elaborated more this premises under the title First Principle of Islamic Methodology. Whereas AbdulHamid AbuSulayman put all his focus and gave full attention to the empirical and contextual and time-space dimensions of methodology. According to him, the need for a fresh look into traditional Islamic methodology is necessary. And for him to conclude, I can say that neither we can borrow the modern Western methodologies as it is, nor we can depend on the traditional methodology of Islamic thought. What do we need? We need to study both the modern and traditional methodologies and then sit down with a critical, comparative, and creative mindset and present our views. In that methodological framework, the true, authentic, and universal worldview occupies the central argument. As I realized, I felt AbdulHamid AbuSulayman argued that based on false worldview, the building of thought and culture and civilization cannot be erected. Therefore, the first need is to argue and resolve the issue of the worldview, which must be true, authentic, and universal. Thank you very much, Professor Afzal, for giving me few minutes to share some of his very important ideas. May Allah bless you. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Professor Dr. Mumtaz Ali, for giving very good insights into